I'm Emily Schmeier.
I'm Amanda Stone.
And I'm Amanda Deeroff.
And this quarter, we completed a summative evaluation of the visitor outreach through marketing and print materials at the Frye Art Museum, using the Nick Visscher exhibit as a case study. So, for a little bit of background, the Frye has done 2 evaluations in the past, both collaboratively with the UW Museology program, and both centered on visitor studies. The results from the 2010 study pertain to our evaluation because their data show that print materials proved to be useful and helpful to visitors who actually used them. Furthermore, the Frye has not done any marketing evaluation until now. From these past studies, as well as through conversations with the Frye staff, the interests of the Frye are clear. Visitorship is addressed in both of the past evaluations and remains a principal interest. The administration has identified a niche group of visitors that frequent the museum and wishes to diversify this visitor base. The Frye is therefore exploring the ways in which their marketing is received by the public, both within the museum and out in the community. So some of the main questions include: who visits the Frye? Are they members, repeat visitors, or locals? How do they learn about the programs and exhibits at the Frye, whether it's through posters in cafes around town, or newspapers, or social media? And finally, what do visitors do with the print materials provided within the museum? To give some context, this is a list of all of the print materials that were available at the information desk over the course of our study. As you can see, there are quite a few. So, those interests informed our evaluation questions listed at the bottom here, and we will go over our methods and results as they pertain to each evaluation question.
Okay, so for our approach, we decided to do a mix of qualitative and quantitative methods to answer the evaluation questions posed in this study. Our sample size that we totaled was 150 visitors, and this was made up from 2 pools of visitors. The first was 90 focused observations, and 16 of those observed, opted for a structured interview. We also had 60 exit surveys, and 32 of those who were surveyed opted for a demographic survey. For our population sampling, due to the size of the Frye and the inconsistencies of some of the visitor flows that we observed there during pilot testing, we chose convenience sampling method, which was basically anyone who came along, we would ask them to participate or observe them. Data collection in order to get a broad range of visitors and data, we scheduled alternating mornings and afternoons and differing days of the week. For our instruments, we had 2 different areas that we focused for our instruments. For instrument 1A and B was focused around the information desk and visitors who were engaging with the print materials there. So instrument 1A was a focused observation of all visitors engaging with the printed materials. And visitors who did pick up the printed materials or look at them, we approached for a structured interview. And instruments 2A and 2B were focused at visitors who were just passing through the exhibit space or the entrance rotunda to the Frye Art Museum. So that was comprised of an exit survey and then an optional demographic survey. Pilot testing for our instruments was successful, and minor changes were made to the options given to visitors. And so as a result, this data was included in our research. Just a brief look at our population or our sample. Our sample statistics found that overwhelming amount of the people we surveyed or observed were repeat visitors to the Frye, but there's indicative of low membership. So only 76%, it looks like those got switched up, sorry. So only 7% of those repeat visitors were members.
our first evaluation question was, how and to what extent are visitors using the printed materials provided by the museum? So for the beginning of our observation, we begin with what drew visitors to the front desk. And so as you can see here, the majority of visitors were looking for information or specifically looking to look at the print materials. So once at the front desk, how many visitors engaged with the printed materials? Out of 91 visitors who were observed, 67% were engaging. And by engaging, we define that as having picked up or having their attention drawn to the printed materials. So out of the 60 visitors who were observed engaging with the printed materials, 93% picked up at least one, and 60% took those printed materials with them. So nearly half the visitors that engaged with the printed materials were shown or encouraged to do so by the staff at the front desk. And overall, we can see that the majority of visitors who were engaging with the printed materials, overall, a majority of visitors were engaging with the printed materials, but not actively, meaning that they weren't discussing them or reading them at the front desk. And we also asked, had the visitors seen the printed materials outside of the museum? 69% said no, so we can assume that most of the engagement is happening in the museum.
For evaluation question number 2, what printed materials are most effective for communicating information about the Frye to visitors? Out of the 90 folks observations that we did, we found that the fashion exhibit rack card and visitor guides, as well as the bookmark, are the most popular. We did color code these printed materials to show that overwhelmingly the most popular printed materials that people were looking at or engaging with were related to the fashion exhibit, which was the main exhibit that was on display at that time. And then the next popular were just those related to supporting events and programs at the museum. The printed materials that were most frequently taken by visitors, so that's taken with them and not put back, was the fashion exhibit rack card. And in the structured interviews, we asked visitors what they wanted to see in the print materials. Most of the questions were focused around if they were looking for something but didn't find it, any suggestions they had. An overwhelming 75% of the visitors weren't sure what they were looking for in the printed materials, but those who did respond said that they were looking for upcoming events and programs, detailed exhibit information, or something to take home. And those visitors also answered that they were looking for volunteer information or an exhibit overview, but didn't find it.
So for evaluation questions 3 and 4, we're exploring the methods of learning about the fashion exhibit before the participants' visit. So did they know about the exhibit before their visit, and if so, where did they get their information? And then also their general preferred methods of finding out about programs and exhibits in general that are not specific to the Frye Museum. So overwhelmingly, visitors did hear about the exhibit before they came, and of those visitors, these were the ways they learned about it before they came, and as you can see, the majority did so via word of mouth, followed by magazines and newspapers. And also, it's clear that the Frye brochures and posters were among the lowest percentile of indicated methods. And then the visitors' reported preferred methods they mostly indicated email and online sources for their preferred methods, but looking at the actual methods, there's a discrepancy. Visitors actually learned about the exhibit through word of mouth in magazines and newspapers, but reported that they prefer to look online or receive emails about upcoming exhibits.
So a few things to wrap up our key findings. The majority of visitors who approach the information desk are engaging with the printed materials, but not to their full potential. And by that we mean taking the printed materials with them, reading them, and gaining information from them. The most popular printed materials were the ones that pertain to the fashion exhibit, and the other ones that were available were not engaged with very often. Most visitors are not looking to the printed materials for specific information, and most visitors heard about the exhibit through word of mouth but prefer online information. For our limitations, we wanted to note that the location where we were standing, visitors would often approach us rather than the front desk to ask questions, and we had to redirect them to the appropriate staff member. And we also wanted to note that what we know about visitors' behavior is based on observation at the front desk in the rotunda, and therefore not in the galleries or outside the museum. So we don't know exactly what they're doing with these print materials once they take them with them. And some final recommendations. We would recommend reconsidering what is available, what printed materials are available, because most of them aren't being used very frequently. And we also suggest maybe some new shelving to declutter the front desk area and increase accessibility. Continue to produce exhibit-themed materials, look into increasing online communications, mostly email, and to encourage the front desk staff to facilitate interactions with these materials, because they were most likely to engage with the printed materials if they were encouraged to do so. Thank you.